Well, howdy there, hempers! Today you're going to learn how to tie the cross-stitched pendant. Not unlike what you see here. The first step is to get two very long lengths of hemp. The goal here is to get some that'll be essentially long enough for a necklace multiplied by probably about 1.5. So get that, multiply it by 2, cut it in half, and you're left with these two long lengths of hemp. You then want to find the center of the two, which is about right here. And we next essentially want to lock them together. To do this, create two loops. Slip one of the loops within the other, pull the strings of it in through its own loop, like so, and pull tight. So what we have now is two interlocked strings. We're now going to grab the one that we essentially wrapped it around and use that as the working string. So first, what we're doing is building from the bottom of the cross up. So we're just going to do a basic flat stitch and work up to approximately, I'd say 2/3 of the total height of the cross. The way I typically break them down is that the long part of the cross constitutes about 2/3 of the height, and the short part of the cross constitutes about 1/3 of the height. And then the arms of the cross, if you will, each are about 1/3 of that height as well. And what makes this cross stitch kind of, well, not cross stitch, but I guess cross pendant unique is that you are using the bass strings almost as the working strings, which I know is confusing if you've not done this before, so allow me a minute and I'll explain. For this one, I'll do a relatively small cross for the sake of demonstration, just so you don't have to sit here watching me tie a flat stitch for the next 10 minutes. Alright, so we have approximately the length of the 2/3 part of the cross that we want. And what we're next going to do is choose the side. It doesn't really matter which one. I'll probably do the right side first. But we're next going to choose the side that we want to do first for the arms. So once you choose that side, you first are going to split these bass strings into two, so it looks kind of like this. And then we're going to choose the side. I'm doing the right side, as I said, and measure it so it's about okay, I got the new battery in and I'm ready to go. So we measure out this part that's about half the length of the bottom part we just made, and it looks something like this. And you don't actually have to measure it off because it really makes no difference since we're just about to do this. But what you're going to do is essentially tie it around itself as the working strings. So the way to do this, lay the two out, take the right side and pull it over this left one. Pinch them, and make sure you're essentially pinching it like this. You want there to be this loop created here. So it'll be something like that. And then take this left working string, take it over this one, under the two, and up through the loop, just like you would a normal stitch. But rather than actually having bass strings, you're just tying it around itself. So now we want to tighten each of them so that it's approximately out where we want it to be. Mess with that until you're happy with it, and then actually pull them tight. And from there, we just tie inwards as we would anything else. The next one's tricky because getting the two arms of the cross to be even is quite the task, I assure you. But nonetheless, after a couple minutes of messing with it, it's not too bad. And as you can see with this one, it didn't really end up being half the length of the long part. It really ended up being probably about 1/3 of the length. But to me, it's not such a big deal. If you're more meticulous about it, you can feel free to mess with it. So, for this side, same deal as last time. Loop it around itself. Get started with the stitches. And something that I've noticed is difficult here is making sure the top one of these is not too long, because naturally it will want to be a a little bit too long, which will make the cross almost more of a lopsided thing, kind of like this. You want to make sure it's short enough that the cross can actually have flat arms rather than arms that are pointed up. And to me that looks approximately the same length, so I'm ready to start tying it inwards. Now something interesting about the cross is you're almost, well, not even almost, you are tying it from the back side, and you'll notice this in a minute. You're not tying it from the side that you'll want it mounted on the actual necklace, but you're tying it from the side that'll be closest to your chest or wrist or whatever it is you're doing. So now that you've got the arms made, what you're going to do is take these two strings, the ones I'm holding right here, and pull them upwards like so. These are now going to serve as your bass strings. So once you have those pulled outwards-ish, take these two outside ones, and those become your new working strings. From there, just tie as normal. I usually will tie 2 stitches and then tighten. Whoa! Sorry, I just hit the tripod. I'll usually tie 2 stitches and then tighten it, just because 1 stitch doesn't really hold very well, and so there's no reason to try to work with it. Whereas with 2 stitches, any of the tightening that you do actually has an effect in the long term. So there's our first one, and once it's tight, our second one. So what I do after I get those 2 stitches in there that are tight, I'll pull these working strings down and push these stitches up. So essentially I'm creating as little slack in here as possible. Once you've done that, simply continue your stitching a little bit until the top part of your cross is about the same length as the arms of the cross. That's what it seems is the typical layout. And once you've gotten that done, you officially have an awesome cross that you can confidently display on your neck for all of those newbie macrameers to wonder exactly how you did it. I'll typically either put a bead here or just take some other string and start to mount it. And as you remember earlier, I mentioned that you're working on the back side. If you flip it over to the front side, this is what you see. Rather than seeing these awkward looking strings, you just see the stitches. So that's today's tutorial on how to make a hemp cross. If you have any questions, send me an email at contact@hempwork.com or visit hempwork.com for more videos, tips, tutorials, etc. Thanks.